The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Tony Roby and staff. Now, let's join your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer and broadcaster, Jason Bryant.
Episode 75 of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling today, as almost always, talking with head wrestling coach Tony Roby as we have coming off the Christmas holiday, heading towards New Year's and heading towards the Southern Scuffle with Hokie wrestling. But before we talk about the topics of Hokie wrestling this week on the show, Coach Roby, what are the holiday traditions that have now grown into the Roby family?
Well, typically it's a lot of just time spent together with my wife and my three boys, and this year was a little bit different because my son, my middle son Luke, is a freshman at Christiansburg High School, and he's wrestling, so he was competing at the Beast of the East, which was on Saturday and Sunday. So I was up there with him doing some recruiting and then also watching him wrestle as well. But typically this time of year, if you're a wrestling coach, you get a little bit of time off, which is very rare during the wrestling season. So you just try to enjoy that as much as possible and try to spend as much time with your family as possible. My in-laws always come down and spend a couple days with us over Christmas. But for me, it's a nice opportunity to just kind of step back from the job, relax, and really focus on my wife and my kids and enjoy that time together.
Now, when it comes to food, this is something that, you're a Pennsylvania guy, and then you come down to the South in Southwest Virginia. What are some things that maybe the Southern cuisine has made its way into the Roby family Christmas?
Definitely. Well, I don't know if it's made its way into the Roby family Christmas, but I think just the barbecue in general is something that we indulge in and have a lot more down here in Southwest Virginia than growing up in a place like Erie, Pennsylvania. So our trainer, Sean Collins, actually is he does a lot of barbecuing. He makes his own sauce and is sort of really, really good. So we've gotten a little bit spoiled with him cooking for us and for the team and cooking for us at team's functions. He always cooks for us at Thanksgiving, not so much at Christmas just because our guys are all back home. But, if there's one thing I think that really sticks out food-wise, it's a little bit different, that would be it.
Have you adopted the green bean casserole at least?
Have not. No, I've never done the green bean casserole. You recommend it, I assume.
It's not something we get up here in Minnesota anymore. Here, I think everything is salad, and it's not the type of healthy salad. Usually it involves a whipped cream, some Jell-O or pudding mix, some fruit. It's just there's usually venison involved with the Christmas up here. And no egg gravy. That's another thing that my late stepmother made. That was a Northern Neck kind of staple from where they grew up. And it was just like, egg gravy, what? It's just... That's a Thanksgiving and Christmas tradition. So up here in Minnesota, it's not lutefisk. Sorry, folks, to disappoint you. It's mostly ham, but that's what we add here. Now, moving into the season, the question is when these guys are coming off the Christmas break, you're heading into a tournament like the Southern Scuffle and then into the Virginia Duels when the semester starts again. What do you tell them before they leave for Christmas?
I just think that they have to, it's definitely a break for them, but it's more of a kind of a mental break, and it's more of a break from the structure of what we have going on, and within our routine. I think it's important that they get some rest while they're at home. They spend some time with their families, but they also have to be, aware of the fact that we're coming back and we're competing in one of the best tournaments in the country, in a few days here. So, the message to them after West Virginia was just to maintain really good discipline, to make sure they did what they needed to do with their workouts and stay on top of stuff, stay on top of their weight, and make sure they take opportunities to, spend time with their family, recharge a little bit, and come back for this home stretch, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, run through the second half of the season.
Now, as we get to the season, one thing that we do have to address is Frank Molinaro has left the staff. He's going to head to Oklahoma and focus on the freestyle side as he gets ready for 2020 in Tokyo. Not a member of the Oklahoma coaching staff, but just going to train down there with them. He's left the coaching staff and the Southeast Regional Training Center, and from a situation where to be a coach and a high level athlete, there's a lot of strain. Sometimes you have to be a little bit personally selfish for your individual goals, and how's this going to impact the program?
Well, I think, long term, we'll be fine. Virginia Tech wrestling is in a really good place. I view this as an opportunity for us to go out and get somebody else that's really, really good that can contribute to our program. Obviously, we wish Frank, the best of luck. Frank's got high wrestling goals. He's wants to win world and Olympic titles, and that's a very, very realistic thing for him. And it's unfortunate that things didn't work out here, but it is what it is, and we're focused on our team, and we're focused on preparing for the Southern Scuffle. We've got some guys going up to Franklin and Marshall, focused on those events, and then the second half of the season. So, obviously the timing, for something like this is never good, but it was less than ideal. But at the end of the day, we just have to do what we can do to make sure that our guys are ready to accomplish their goals at the end of the season. And, like I said, to me, I look at this as an opportunity to bring somebody else in really, really good. It probably won't be until the season's over to join myself and Coach Freyer and Coach Walls and add to all the exciting things that we have going on here at Virginia Tech at the moment. So.
Now, is that something with coaching hires and such? Is that almost kind of a courtesy? You're not going to go out and try to, for lack of a better term, poach someone off somebody else's staff at midseason. You're just going to say, all right, we'll deal with it. In our team, we won't impact anybody else on this.
Yeah, I just think, in order to get the best candidates, that's the best way to do it. And it just, I just think that would be very difficult to do at this particular time. You really limit your pool of people that would be interested in the job. So we'll definitely, going to be professional about it and wait until the season's over, and then, reach out to some of the guys that we have some interest in. This does give us some time to really think on it and kind of formulate a list of people that we think would fit into what we have going on here and that would help us move forward and help us, make the next step for our program.
Couple duels to talk about before we get into the holidays, and that was the victory over Princeton, a very game Princeton. They're on Hokie Mania night. What you gonna do? 24-16 was the win there, and then the Black Diamond duel between rival West Virginia, which is that's every sport. That's not just a wrestling thing. That's West Virginia, Virginia Tech, 24-9 win there in Morgantown. First, let's talk about the performance at home against Princeton coming up almost 3 weeks ago.
I was pleased. I thought we wrestled pretty well. Probably as good as an effort that we had up until that point of the season. We had a few guys in there. We had a backup in there against Princeton, but I liked how we went out and we competed, and we got some big wins early. BC LaPrade, came through with an overtime win, which I think kind of propelled things, got the ball rolling, and then Mackay looked really good. Dave looked really good in his first match back, and it was really nice to have Billy Miller back in there as well, and Corbin in his debut at the Castle Coliseum at Virginia Tech wrestled really well. So was pleased with the effort there, and I felt like some of the things that we've been trying to implement and work on in the practice room, we're starting to see more and more of that with our guys when they're competing. So, that's what the goal is to, after each event, evaluate things, see where we're at, and then, figure out what we need to do to make adjustments and improve in the areas that, that we're probably a little bit deficient in. So we'll continue to do that as the season goes on. But, like I said, I was pretty pleased that, if I had to single one guy out, it would be BC LaPrade. Just as, shown a lot of grit and a lot of toughness this year, and a lot of tough, tight matches, and hopefully we can keep improving to the point where we're not always in those barn burners, but just feel like BC has the ability to I guess suck it up, for lack of a better word, when things are hard and are difficult, and just figure out ways to win. So was really pleased with that.
What were your thoughts on David coming in here? Travis Stefanik is not exactly a chop liver type of opponent guy that's coming into the lineup. He's from a great program at Nazareth, so he was well coached coming through, and of course what they're doing at Princeton is pretty impressive. But thoughts on getting his groove back?
Like you said, I mean, Stefanik is a very good young wrestler. I think he did a year abroad last year after high school and was training over in Russia, I believe, and some other places. So I think he's going to have a great college career. And for Dave, for his first match back in action, I thought he looked good. It was, we had a little bit of a scare where he shot in, almost too deep and hit Stefanik's knee. He took a concussion protocol, and it was a little bit scary there for a second. But he was fine, was able to come back and maintained his composure and won a hard-fought match, and I was pleased. Dave's got a lot of tools and a lot of offense and a lot of different ways that he can score points. He's a very well-rounded wrestler. I think he's capable of maybe putting up one or two more takedowns. I certainly do, and I think that's something we're going to continue to work for and strive for. But for his first action of the season, I thought he looked good.
Moving over to the duel against West Virginia. Again, this is kind of an odd scheduling where, neither team really has any students there. It's been at Parkersburg High School. It's been at now back in Morgantown. What were your thoughts about scheduling this West Virginia duel where it is on the calendar?
I like it. We did the same thing last year here at home. I mean, last year I think it worked out so it was a Friday night. It was a little bit odd. I think we wrestled them on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't recall, but I thought it was good. We were able to get one last match in before break and after finals, and it's not like we're going to the Midlands, so our guys were able to take 6 days at home and after that, and it was just, I think it helps give our guys something to train for that third week in December and prepare for, as opposed to just training for a week and then sending those guys home. So I think that's something that we'll probably continue to do with West Virginia. I think they like having a competition right around that same time as well. So next year we'll have them back here in Catholic Coliseum, and hopefully we can make that late December date work again for us as well. So it was good. It was a good trip. It was good to get up there, and see some old friends, but also see our guys compete. And again, I thought we went out. I thought we wrestled hard, and made some improvements. And that's kind of what we're looking for overall.
And how strange is it for you to look across that mat? And it's not the first time you've coached against Tim Flynn, but to see Tim Flynn wearing something other than red and black.
Yeah, it definitely was a little bit different. It was kind of like an Edinburgh reunion up there. There's a lot of ex-Edinburgh fans and wrestlers that just happened to be in town for that meet. And then obviously we have Billy and Corbin here as well, who are Edinburgh guys. So it was a little bit different. Tim was at Edinburgh. He came in as a assistant coach the same year I came in as a true freshman. So he was there for a long, long time, since really the fall of 1992, and he really didn't think he would end up leaving that position, but the opportunity at West Virginia is great. I'm happy for him. I know that they've got a big project and they've got some rebuilding to do, but he's definitely the guy for the job, and you can see they're making some strides already at some certain weight classes and getting things going in the right direction. But it was definitely different. I was able to see his wife Tanya, who's a good friend of mine, and just to see her wearing different colors was a little bit strange.
And no plaid to be found.
Yeah, no bagpipes or no plaid. So, but yeah, they got the Mountaineer. I guess he carries around a rifle with him. So, it was a little bit different than the Fighting Scots.
Well, I mean, it's either a spear or a rifle, but thankfully you don't use either of those on a wrestling mat, because I'm not sure what a hokey bird can carry with it as far as a street fight goes, but that's why we don't do that. We do the wrestling things on the mat. And so does this with Flynn across the mat, it kind of takes an edge off a little bit of the rivalry, or is it like tech hokey fans like, no, it's still West Virginia, we want to beat them bad and everything?
Yeah, I think our fans definitely want to beat them bad. I know that our administration, that it's similar to wrestling. Probably not quite to the level, but similar to wrestling UVA. It's important when we compete against West Virginia. I think our fans really take that seriously, and it's something that they get excited about, and I know the West Virginia fans do as well. I mean, I don't think there's a huge love loss between West Virginia and Virginia Tech. Dating back to their days in the what conference were they in there? The
EWL.
Well, the football does.
Oh, the old Big East.
The old Big East, that's right. Yep, played football and basketball against each other in the old Big East. So, we've been able to get them on the football schedule a few times here recently. So, yeah, I think that rivalry is renewed, and we're excited to keep it going with wrestling.
I'm always just going to remember Shane Graham's field goal. That's all I need to. Hokie Nation knows exactly what I'm talking about there. Now, moving into the actual duel itself, this one started at 165. You got Mikhail Lewis coming right off the scale. This is, I guess, showing that how fresh he is. Pep in a step 15-2 major decision to kick things off, followed by David McFadden with a solid 8-2 win. I mean, you sweep the first 5 matches heading into the break, and the probably the most solid win there, I think, probably had to come from Tom Slay. As Noah Adams he's a young, talented kid from West Virginia, and Tom getting his legs under him here at Virginia Tech. I mean, pretty good start winning the first 5.
Absolutely, especially Mikhail Lewis. Mikhail Lewis wrestled that guy at the Hokie Open. I think he won by a point, maybe 2 points. It was a close match. I think that shows you just Makai's development over the course of the last couple months, and he continued. And that's what makes Makai special, is he's always trying to add things to his wrestling. He's always trying to figure out ways to improve, to score more points, to get better in the top position, which he has done. So was very, very pleased with Makai and how he looked and how he competed, and for him to be able to go out and just put that many points on the board was pretty impressive, and it was a great way for him to cap off the first semester. So, but yeah, drawing and pulling 165 for us is obviously a pretty good starting place, and it allows us to get some momentum and get Makai and Dave and Zach Sabatsky and Slay, and then we had Billy in the lineup as well. So, ideally, that would probably be the best place for us to start every dual meet. So it kind of worked out well at West Virginia.
With the progress of Billy Miller coming off an injury now into the lineup, 4-0 against the opponent he had, if he's 100% healthy, probably blows the doors off the guy. But what's the process and not just coming back from an injury, but a transfer as well, and in easing him into the lineup? People are maybe expect too much too quick.
Well, that guy's actually, I know he doesn't have great results, but he's hard to beat bad. So I thought Billy
he's hard to beat
good.
Bad. Okay, gotcha.
He's hard to beat bad. He wrestles a lot of close matches. The one thing we know that Billy does really well is he throws it out there. He has no fear of getting tired or getting fatigued or pushing himself, and I think that's really what makes Billy pretty good. So he may not be a guy that's ever going to throw up technical falls like Ty Walls did at heavyweight, but when he goes out there and wrestles with that kind of intensity and that kind of effort and just stays on guys, stays in their face, that's hard for a lot of heavyweights to deal with. So I think it's always tough. Wrestling in competition and match intensity is a little bit different than what you're doing in the room every day. So Billy, we really tried to bring Billy along slowly, and I think we did that. He probably could have wrestled earlier if we wanted to throw him out there. But, we wanted to kind of take it slow. He's a fifth-year senior. It's not like he needs the matches or needs the experience. I think there's plenty of time for him to get his, match conditioning to where it needs to be by the end of the season. And, he's been working diligently with Ty Walls and trying to add some attacks on his feet to his wrestling, and I think he's done a really good job.
Now, as we go flipping around the lineup to 125, Joey Prada lost in sudden victory. In this case, you talk about Billy Miller not needing a whole lot of experience, being a fifth-year guy. Well, Joey needs the experience because you miss that much time in the first part of your career. He's still, it's like being a freshman again. I mean, where does Joey need to improve here, and what did you see out of this match that maybe he could have won this match?
Well, he definitely could have won the match. He gave up a penalty point that I thought was very questionable to put into overtime. But that being said, he gave up a takedown in overtime. So Joey's got to be able to get to more offense. I mean, that's the bottom line. If you can't go out and force takedowns and score takedowns, it makes winning really difficult at the Division I level. So it was tough. I felt for Joey. He went out, and I felt like his effort, it had nothing to do with his effort. I felt like he had a good game plan. He wrestled really hard, fought off a few shots, rode rode the guy hard, almost rode him for 2 minutes. And likely if they didn't, if he didn't give the penalty point on a mat return, probably rides him out for the victory. So, it's just back to work. It's improvement in a lot of areas. Bigger, stronger, faster, better at wrestling. I mean, it's not just one thing. I think where Joey needs to improve. I think he needs experience. I think he just needs to continue to grow and get better at wrestling. I do like where he's at from an effort standpoint. I mean, that's not the problem. So we can help him in the areas that he needs help, and I think he can improve. And I know Joey well enough to know that he's going to be a guy that is gonna work hard to figure things out.
No Corbin Myers at 133. Instead, Kyle Nordstrom bumps up to 133 and gets a big move late to make it look like a 9-2 is the final score, but that match was close throughout. And why? One, where was Corbin? Two, why the decision to throw Kyle in at 133?
Well, Corbin's he's got an injury that he's dealing with. We hope to have him back by the Virginia Duels is what our goal is currently. So I think he'll be back by then. And it's just kind of like next man up. With Joey in there at 25. We had a few other options at 133. Really, though, trying to protect Colin Girardi in his red shirt at 133. So it made sense to bump Kyle up and throw him in there at 133, especially with the rules. He can progress back down to 125, and he can do that by the Virginia Duels. So, that was kind of our thought process. And, Kyle, I think it was an opportunity to just see where he's at and watch him compete again. And I thought he wrestled well. Obviously, it was good. That guy had beaten him earlier in the year at the Hokie Open at 125, both bumped up to 133, and it was, like you said, it was a tight bout. But we've been trying to get Kyle to get to the positions he's good and wrestle from the positions he's good, and it worked out for him against West Virginia. It was a little scary there for a second, but he's good in those areas. So he needs to, I think any good wrestler needs to wrestle in the positions that they want to be in, that they're comfortable in, that they're the best in. So I think hopefully Kyle, can take something from that and continue to, kind of incorporate that into his style of wrestling.
141 pounds, Dom Latana takes another loss, tight one there. Coming off, not exactly the best performance he had against Princeton, and losing to kind of a hometown guy there, Marshall Keller, who's from Christiansburg. So, kind of a back-to-back rough stretch here at 141 for Dom.
Yeah, I felt like against Keller, as bad as the score looked, I mean, Dom just didn't wrestle a very smart match and made a lot of mistakes and went out there and just, put himself in positions that he shouldn't have put himself in. And he did a better job of that against West Virginia and, kind of was in the driver's seat there for a little while. I think Dom's bottom needs to continue to improve. I mean, he's still, him and Ryan Blease both, who I'm sure we'll talk about next, the bottom position, I think, really hurt them. I also, not only from a point standpoint, it just, spending too much time underneath them wore on them, and they got a little bit tired, and I think it affected the outcome of the match. Anytime you get held down for a long period of time, it's taxing, and that's what we want to do. I mean, we're in the top position. We want to ride guys. We want to make it hard on them. We want to work for turns and not really give them anything. And it's effective way to manage a match. It's effective way to go out there and wrestle and get your hand raised. And, the shoe is on the other foot for both Dom and Ryan Blease in those situations where they spend way too much time underneath the guy. And, it really determined the outcome of the match.
Sliding into that, Ryan Blease loses to Christian Montserrat. This is one that, most people look at on paper probably shouldn't happen, considering, the improvement that Ryan had at the tail end of last year. Losing to Kolodzik, that's another thing entirely, but, back-to-back losses here at 149. Where does Ryan, what was the deal here? Because this one surprised me.
Well, I think that guy's a quality opponent. I mean, we knew going in that Ryan was going to have to wrestle well. I've watched some of his results and we watched some video on him, obviously. And but when Ryan Blease is at his best, I think we win that match, and I think he's proven that. So. It's a great question. We've been having dialogue, and coaches are working with Ryan and just trying to figure out exactly what he needs to do, what we need to tweak, how we need to approach things. And in an effort to get him back to where he's capable of being. And it's inconsistency. He had a little bit of inconsistency last year towards the end of the season, although he wrestled really well through January and February. And had a pretty good ACC tournament, but for us, we're trying to figure that out ourselves, and it's a work in progress for sure. And I think some of it's a confidence thing, and some of it's just going out there and figuring things out. And that's what Ryan needs to do right now, is he needs to figure out how to get his hand raised, and he's struggling with that. But it's a long season, and that's what this is about. It's about making adjustments, and it's about trying to figure out where we need to improve. And I don't know that a lot of it's physical. I think Ryan, from a mental standpoint, has got to flip the switch and get back to the mindset that made him successful in high school and made him successful last year. Through those months that we talked about.
Right now, you've got two Virginia natives in the lineup with Joey Prada, and then BC LaPrade at 157. And I think one thing from a Virginia native standpoint, and watching him compete, it's not like we were going to put any extra pressure on this guy, but when BC is on his game, when he is on fire, when he's attacking and scoring, it's like you can almost see, all like Hokie Nation just kind of rise, be like, yes, this is what they want to see. Not just because it's a Hokie, but it's also a Virginia kid. Is that something that maybe I'm just putting too much on? Maybe I'm looking at it a little differently, or is there some truth behind that?
I think so. I mean, I think he's got, he's from the Richmond area and wrestled a Predator, and it's, one of the better, probably the best club in the state of Virginia. So BC's got a nice following from that area, and then also has kind of developed out of Virginia Tech. And part of that's his love for Virginia Tech. He's pretty vocal about that on social media, and I think our fans appreciate that, and I think they appreciate how he wrestles and the grit that he wrestles with. So I think it's a combination of all of those things. He's been in some pretty tight matches and won a lot of pretty tight matches. Like we talked about earlier, he finds ways to win a lot of those matches, not all the time, but a lot of the time. So I think that makes him a little bit of a fan favorite, and people like that, and people gravitate to that. So I think it's a good thing. I think, whenever we have wrestlers in our lineup from the state of Virginia that are having success, it definitely helps create some momentum and create some excitement within our fan base. And we've been pretty fortunate over the years to have a lot of kids from the state of Virginia that have wrestled really well and have done good things for us. So BC is kind of carrying the torch right now, so to speak.
Got a couple days before you head down 81 and down to Chattanooga for the Southern Scuffle. You alluded to a couple athletes going to the F&M Open, which is up in another place I used to live in, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So who's going to go where? In the Scuffle, for example, you can take up to 15. You can have some unattached guys wrestling. This is where Mekhi Lewis really made a breakout performance last year with his fourth place finish there, wrestling as a true freshman. But what do we expect to see lineup-wise at both the David Lehman F&M Open and the Southern Scuffle?
Well, we've got a couple guys going unattached to the Scuffle. Both Hunter Boland and Colin Girardi will be going unattached, obviously redshirting this year. Is the plan for those guys. And then we're going to take attached guys. We're going to take John Borst, Cody Hughes, BC LaPrade, Mekhi Lewis, McFadden, Billy Miller, Slay, and Stan Smeltzer. So those guys will all be going to the Scuffle. Excited to see them compete. I think there's some potentially really exciting matchups when you look at what Oklahoma State and Penn State and some other schools are bringing to the Southern Scuffle with some of our guys, and where we're pretty good as well. So it should be pretty exciting to see that thing play out. I know we're excited about it, and I know our guys are. We have opportunities to knock off some highly ranked and highly credentialed guys, and kind of see where we're at currently. So, that's what we're doing. And then, we're taking a handful of guys up to Franklin and Marshall. Hopefully Mitch Moore is going to be back in there, Ryan Blease, Prada, as well as a few other guys as well, just to, we feel like we talked about this in the past is making sure that you get your win percentage where you want it to be. And that's part of the thought process in sending some of those guys up to Lancaster for, I think they call it the Patriot Open, but, we'll send a handful of guys up there as well. And I think that's on the 5th, I believe.
Yeah, so you've got those two things, and of course you answered the next question I had as far as why certain starters weren't going to go where, but you've answered that question with your statement already. So good on you, Mr. Roby. It's like you understand where we're going with this.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, huh?
Yeah, pretty good. Now, as we go to the scuffle, this is something preparation-wise. There was an 11th place finish at Cliff Keen. Not exactly what people, I guess, want to see out of, at that point, a top 10 ranked team. Right now, you guys are ranked 14th in the dual meet rankings, and you're not carrying every single starter to the Southern Scuffle. What is the point of peaking at this point in the season? I mean, you got that, then you got the Virginia duels, training cycles. Wins important. What is the mindset of a coach and a team into this scheduling these next 2.5 weeks?
Well, I mean, just like in Las Vegas, I mean, we're not going to send guys to Las Vegas if we don't feel like they're ready to compete at a tournament at that level. And, I mean, that's obviously when you don't send David McFadden and Billy Miller, who both guys that are, ranked really high in the country, and you have a few other backups in there, it's going to affect where you place at. So I don't worry too much about that, to be quite honest with you. I'm not overly concerned about where we place at the Southern Scuffle. Obviously, bringing half a lineup, or it's going to make it a lot more difficult. So, our focus is on, we're treating these two events basically on what's best for those individuals, just like we did in Las Vegas. And then we'll worry about our dual meets. Obviously, hopefully we're at full strength once we get to the Virginia duels. That's what my goal is right now. So once we get to the Virginia duels and we get full strength, and, we'll go in that thing, and we're going to be in that thing to win it. But the reality is really the most important part of the season is ACC dual meets, the ACC championships, and then the NCAA championships. And that's really where, we set our sights at. And, that doesn't mean we're protecting guys. If guys are healthy, they're going to wrestle. But, we're also going to do what's best for each individual, especially in these tournament settings.
Tony Roby, any final thoughts to add as we head into the scuffle? Maybe your favorite Christmas movie, things of that nature?
I had an opportunity to sit down with my wife, and we watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Maybe that's probably my all-time favorite Christmas movie. So, Chevy Chase, excellent Christmas movie. Good way to kill 2 hours on Christmas Day.
Yeah, that's what we definitely watched the other night. Of course, I'm starting to buy into the theory that Die Hard and Die Hard 2 are Christmas movies. So maybe more Die Hard than Die Hard 2, even though, there's all that snow in Dulles in Christmas-ish season. So Die Hard 2 still kind of out there. I think Better Off Dead is a pretty quality Christmas movie, even though most people will skirt over that. That was a big movie from my 80s. But of course, I don't know, Cousin Eddie emptying out the chemical toilet. There's something about it just makes you laugh. And, decorum prevents me from saying the actual line, but trust me, I've been saying that line all around the house, annoying my wife all holiday season long. So, Tony Roby, I'm glad to see you're a Christmas Vacation fan. We'll see you down at the Virginia Duels. Good luck at the Scuffle. Of course, fans can watch the Southern Scuffle at Flow Wrestling, and the Virginia Duels. We will actually send Peter Long a note to let them know that's on Track Wrestling on Trackcast, not on Flow Wrestling. That's January 11th to 12th, but we'll visit before the Virginia Duels and talk then. So, for Hokie Nation, this has been Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you on the mix. Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.